Okay, so let me show you the charts. So looking at the bubbles here, having a look at the cryptocurrencies today, we're kind of down, right? The majority of stuff are down. Bitcoin down a percentage and altcoins down even more. You have a look at the weekly, we're still down on the weekly, looking like 25s, 10%ers, near 17% down, AVAX 16% down, Bitcoin 8% down. So down over the weekly. We're also down over the monthly, looking slightly better for some of the other altcoins. Congratulations if you was able to capture that at the start of the month. Helium up, Tron, no one was expecting Tron, but it's been putting higher lows and higher highs, been doing really well, but the majority of the market is down. Sol down 20%, Bitcoin down 10%, but if you have a look over the year, we have been doing excellent. Okay, crypto is doing very well. If you was to be in the least riskiest cryptocurrency, which is Bitcoin, you'd be up 124%. If you invested this time last year, okay, you'd be up. All right, so always base your metric on the least riskiest, right? Bitcoin, you should be up 124%. If you're not, you might be doing something wrong. If you are in an altcoin, you at least should be up 51% because, you know, ETH is the king of the altcoins. So I'm expecting everybody to be up around 51% minimum. If you're not, something's wrong. You need to have a look at what you're doing. Even BNB, 142%, but 50% is your baseline there. And of course, Bitcoin there if you're much more of a less riskier investor. So that's where we are. But where is the crypto market going? Well, traditionally, right, what you want to do, what I like to do, you want to have a look at where obviously the majority of the money is in property, right? You know, like $900 trillion in property. And then you want to have a look at the smaller circle, right? Where's the money there? Well, the S&P 500, right? You got things like Apple, Google that form part of the S&P 500. $42 trillion worth of market cap. $42 trillion. That's not the dollar sign, but you know what I mean. $42 trillion. And then you got smaller things such as Bitcoin, right? Cryptocurrency, I should say. Cryptocurrency, which is about $2 trillion right now. 2 trillion, a mere 2 trillion. We want to make sure these things are doing well versus before looking at Bitcoin, because there's some sort of correlation, right? Or should I say cryptocurrency, not just Bitcoin. So we want to make sure these things are going up versus Bitcoin and other stocks, shares, assets, commodities. So let's have a look at the real estate. Let's have a look at some real estate. So let's have a look at the Home Builders ETF. So again, we're reaching all-time highs, right? All-time highs. So that's doing really well. I'm on the weekly chart, doing really well, putting in all-time highs all the way back here. Look at this. Look at this. Consistently going up. So that's good. That's a good sign. So that's a tick, right? That's a tick. Home Builders ETF, doing well. Let's have a look at the S&P 500. All-time highs, right? Pretty much all-time highs. I'm on the weekly chart. Look at it. We look like we want to break out again. Coming up to the highs that we formed in July. It's trying to test that. So yeah, S&P 500 doing well. Let's have a look at the NASDAQ, because we tend to, cryptocurrency tends to correlate a lot with the NASDAQ at a lot of times. So that's still doing really well. Not as good as the S&P 500, but it's doing well. It formed its high again in July as well, and it had a pullback. And for the past 3 weeks, we've been going up. So it's doing well. So let's have a look at the total cryptocurrency market cap, which is Bitcoin, and where we stand, because we've just closed the month, right? We've just closed August. We're into September now. And we are looking at Bitcoin in the weekly, and we seem to be in this microphone sort of channel, right? That's what we seem to be doing. You know what? Let me bring up something. Let me bring up, where are you? Let's have a look at the Bitcoin monthly returns. Let's have a look at the Bitcoin monthly returns. So what I've got here is the bear markets in red here in 2014. 2018 was when the bear market was, and 2022 was the bear market. Now don't get me wrong, it did start at the end of 2021, the year before, so like November 2021, that's when the bear market, or the top was, and the top was in 2017 at the top around November, October, and also in 2013, right? Cool. And then the blue marker here is kind of the year we're in, if we was to compare, right? 2 years before the top. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. 2 years prior to the bear market. But remember, the top was formed in 2017, the year prior. Okay, so that's where we are here today. The blue marker, 2024. All right, September is currently underway. This hasn't closed, and it's going to change. But we know August was down from its previous month. So let's kind of compare it. So what do we have here? What is September likely going to look like? Well, September's traditionally a very bearish month, according to the data, not according to me. According to the data, we have 12 data points here, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We've got 12 data points there. And out of those 12 data points, 3 of them are green and 9 of them are red. All right, so there's a 75% chance that that September is going to close down in comparison to August. Okay, now you can take away the years that are if you were to take away the years that are when we're in a bear market, sorry, which is these years here, then it gets reduced. It gets reduced to like 50% or something to that effect. All right, 50% chance that we'll end the month of September green versus red. So just be aware of that. All right, there's a 50% chance. Now also keep in mind of how far we can go down. All right, in 2014, the bear market, that was 19%. Okay, and the least month again was here. It was another bear market. So you're looking at roughly 13%, average of sort of like 13% that we could have a drawdown. All right, but both of those is in a bear market. Both of those were in a bear market. But anywhere from 10 to 13%, I think, is a something to keep in mind. All right, 13% down on September. What would that look like? What would 13% look like if Bitcoin came down about 13% or so? Okay, so September, let's go to the monthly. All right, over to the monthly. Let's have a look at that. And this is a thought experiment, right? I'm just thinking out loud here. So that's where we closed in August. If we was to close lower, okay, the first one was like 3% or so, right? So that'll bring us to about to 56k, 56 or 57k. I should say 57k. Round it off, 56,961. Let's round it off to 57k, and then at most it was 19%. 19% would bring us to about 47.5k. All right, close to its 50% level. And then I mentioned something around 13% also, right, as a sort of average based on Bitcoin's monthly returns. And that kind of takes us just above the 50% level. So that's something to sort of keep in mind. Now, if we're having a look at the date ranges, okay, you know, I've been tracking the dates, our consolidation movements, 220 days. There was a consolidation area here, and I've been tracking the consolidation here about 240 days or so. And let's go to the daily chart for me for a second. 220 days, there we go. And that roughly I've been looking at towards October, right? I've been looking at October because that is a previous consolidation range that we have had back here when we first entered it in 2023 of March. Yeah, very similar. So what I'm talking about is this area here, this sort of consolidation area here. We have been consolidating for a very long time as well, and it's good to just track the dates, right? WD Gantt talks about time being more important than price, and it's important for us to sort of log that, right? So we've got that there, and that ends in October, right? Early October. I've got it here at Wednesday, the 2nd of October, but nothing's exact. It's just good to have an estimation. So we know in terms of our monthly returns. Let's go back to the monthly returns. September could be a bearish month, right? It could go down anywhere on average to about 13%. It's likely to happen in terms of 75% drawdown, but if we cancel out all the bear markets, about 50% or so. And then October is traditionally a very bullish month. October is a very bullish month traditionally. Got some really big gains here, all the way from what we got here, 60%, the highest being 60%. and the lowest being 10% or 5% I can see here. 5%, so quite a big range. So we're probably looking anywhere between like 27 to 29% or so that we could go up in October, depending on where the bottom is, right? So what does that sort of data tell us? If you was to just go on that, if it was just to go on that, S&P 500 looking good, putting in all-time highs, NASDAQ doing really well, those two being highly correlated with cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin, September potentially being the low, or we having a bit more of a drop down in comparison to August, and then October flying up. What does that tell you? You know, well, what it kind of tells me is you probably want to be looking to buy this month. You know, you probably want to be looking to buy this month. Where you want to be buying, that's entirely up to you. But for me, that's likely going to be Bitcoin, right? It's likely going to be Bitcoin, and that just gives me exposure, right? It gives me exposure. Being in Bitcoin gives me exposure to the cryptocurrency market. Okay, so less risk. All right, less risk to the downside, and less returns on the upside. But it's obviously less risk to the downside. But what we really want to see, in order for these alts to really start skyrocketing, Bitcoin needs to get above this. It needs to get above this consolidation range. It needs to get above 74k. There's too much uncertainty here, and it needs to push out for anything to happen. So I think it's safe. If you want to be less risky, I'd say invest in Bitcoin. I'd say anywhere between the 50% here, anywhere between the 50%, 49k, and where we are right now is a decent place to put in your bids. Let's back out our fibs. Let's back out a fib on this, on that recent swing, okay, on this 5-day swing here, and we get the 50% at 56,884, and then we get the 618 at 50, pretty much 55k. Okay, you could step ladder in. You could step ladder in like that. Okay, more money up there. Or if you really think we're going to go down a lot further, then step ladder it in like this. Okay, step ladder it in like that. So it's entirely up to you. I'll leave it up to you what you guys want to do. But for me, I think at this period, at this stage, I'll be investing in Bitcoin. And then if we do break out, if we do eventually break out, like we come down like this in September, maybe we retouch the 50%, I'll invest in Bitcoin. Maybe we go up for October and then we just break out. Then I'll swap my swap my Bitcoin for some other alts. All right, for some altcoins. We'll see how that does. Okay, so it still gives me the exposure to the cryptocurrency market, but I don't know where all the money's gonna go to. You know, Bitcoin needs to make a decision. It needs to get above here. It needs to break this. For the market to continue and be healthy and be strong and be bullish, it needs to break above that. But we do have some of the precursors for it to happen, right? S&P 500 is doing well, NASDAQ's doing well. The M2 money supply, there's a lot of money in the world. It's looking real bullish, right? It's looking real bullish. What's the dollar doing? So the dollar is usually inversely correlated with risk on assets. We did break down. I could see we're getting some support down here at this area here. You can see these sort of areas of support coming in. It did break down from this trend line, which was a really good sign, and that's where Bitcoin had its little bounce. But you know, we could see it slowly make its way up. Here. It's got a lot of resistance to get through between the 102 and 103 level. So let's see what it does there. That it might do that throughout the whole of September, start making its way up and then get rejected. So maybe that's something you want to follow, right? If you want to jump in once it breaks the trend, let's see what the trend does. Because maybe, as I said, it comes up like this. We're able to draw our trend line and we wait until it breaks down, right? We wait until it breaks down. And then maybe you might want to jump in there. So it depends on how you want to trade that. But yeah, that's the market. That's what I intend to do. Altcoins for the moment, they're in the back for me. I've got my positions, what I'm in. I'm staking what I'm staking. Majority is still Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin breaks, if and when it does break its consolidation area and everything I've been planning, then I'll move it to alts, right? If I see Bitcoin break and hold, I will change my portfolio around. I don't know what that will look like. I don't know if I will move to something like 10% Bitcoin or 20% Bitcoin or 40% Bitcoin and the rest alts, but we'll see. But now we can look at the data. The data's been clear. It's been best to be in Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Unless you was the person to catch whiff right at the bottom here, it was always best to be in Bitcoin since the bear market bottom. Since the bear market bottom was formed, you was best in Bitcoin. Okay, you was best in Bitcoin. Because you wouldn't have necessarily known, right? Like, who would have thought Solana would have done what it would have done? Who would have thought some of the others would have done what it's done today? But you know what I mean? Some of these drawdowns, people are down, right? Let's have a look at ETH. So Bitcoin, right? Hold on one sec before I move on too much. So we had this top. When was this top? Monday the 11th of March. Monday the 11th of March, right? And how far are we down on Bitcoin? 20%. ETH. %, right? Okay, Solana. You know, and obviously this depends on where you were buying. Solana, what's Solana doing? What's Solana doing? You know, one of the favorites. Solana's done, it's done magnificently. It's done magnificently. 35%. So it's these pullbacks which really hurt, right? And obviously it's gonna depend on when you invested. Depends on when you invested. What's Near doing? Ooh, what's Near doing? Near from the top. Wow, that's a 55% drop. So it's all good looking back after a year and saying Whiff did like. It's all good after a year saying, well, have a look at, you know, Whiff and Mantra DAO. But who got into these at the right time? Who do you know that made 5,000%? Not a lot. Not a lot. So unless you know what's gonna happen, you know, Bitcoin 125. You should be 125% up right now. You know, and you shouldn't have to worry about anything. You're up. You're good. And if you're not, consider what you've been doing. But then again, what do I know? Have a good Sunday, guys.